What's up everyone, it's Jan Boers, new video, new Humans of Eurovision show, 21st edition, 21st anniversary, and let's celebrate with my friend, with the person I worked with in 2017 Eurovision edition, the publisher in the UK, the music producer more likely in the continental Europe, the person who was behind Martina Sparta, My Turn song, and many others from various countries. And the person who is very influential towards Eurovision, not just because he sends songs to many countries and he rising up the quality of the song he sends and finds and produce, but as well the person who influenced the thought of the songwriting camps for Eurovision. And I think that really brought up a great competition and great variety to Eurovision world as well, even I would say in the world of music itself. Please welcome Greig Watts. Hey Greig, I'm really glad that you're here with me today, and I can't wait that you'll share with me how the music for Eurovision is made. How are you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Very good indeed. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Very good. Greig, we have a history together. We were walking together in 2017 with My Turn song from Martina Sparta, and since then a lot of things changed. I don't even want to count 2020 craziness, maybe in 2021 craziness, but how the world changed for you as a music producer?
Well, I think same as everyone else, we're doing everything from home. Being based in the UK, we've pretty much been locked down nearly a year. I mean, we had a little period over the summer where we could, I think I went to the studio once a week for about 5 or 6 weeks, something like that. So everything we do has basically gone online, like pretty much like everyone else. So yeah, it has affected us dramatically. But I think as one thing I've noticed, as creative people find a way to continue to be creative. So hence, you're doing this on Zoom. We're doing all our writing sessions on Zoom, all of our meetings on Zoom. So we continued the same way as we were, just not quite as much in person. I actually think it's been quite a creative period because, as I said, I think creative people have to sort of find this way to create. So if you put a lid on top of creative people, it's almost like you have to burst out. So I think there's been a lot of creation, a lot of songs, and I think there'll be even more of that in the coming months as we are able to gather together again. So in some ways tough times, but also kind of an exciting creative time as well, because we've all kind of had a chance to reevaluate what we do and things. So
yeah, I'm always quite surprised, or not just surprised, but in a way that the creativity always finds its way how to survive somehow. But you probably see that there's a lack of the physical contact just make everything a bit different, or it's just different in a good way, or different in a way that you can't wait that those times will be back if it's going to be possible.
Yeah, I think for writing, it's much better if you're in the room together. It's you have that extra connection because you're there. It's better if you're in a studio surroundings. We have made it work by people, and people have. I think before lockdowns, before COVID, people were doing online sessions anyway, but it's just been a real extension of making that happen a lot. In a sense, instead of just doing it once every now and then, we've just had to continue the process. So, yeah, I'm used to it, strangely used to it now. So it might be weird going back to everyone meeting again. In a sense, I used to travel so much before this year. It's actually been quite nice being at home, and quite nice sort of consolidating and reflecting and fine-tuning what we do. I think there's been a lot of, that's an important part of this is. Sometimes I actually look at it now, I think I travelled too much. I travelled to do too many meetings. I travelled to do too many camps and things like that. And actually, so I think we will go back to some of that, but it won't be quite as many. It will be a bit more, we'll think about, do we need to do this? So there is lots of benefits from it, but I think in a sense we're all craving to get back in the room with each other. In a sense, for a camp, in a sense, it's not just being in a room with 3 people. It's you're in a place where there's 25, 30 people who are all connecting on a basis. And I think one of the things that makes song camps work, and the reason song camps work, is because it's all creative people who fit together. So I go trace it back to my school days, where did I really fit as a creative person? Do I fit in academic society? No. Looking back, probably not. You go on a song camp, and this is the same as Eurovision. You go to Eurovision, and it's many creative people who probably don't fit necessarily in the academic world, but suddenly you find these people that understand you without having to talk about it. So I think there's an element of we're all as creatives really craving to get back into that where you can just connect with people and spark off each other.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about the songwriting camps, which are actually made that the people really meet and feel the energy and the chemistry between each other. That probably can even start something which is much bigger, like the special song, which can just happen because those 2 people meet who will never ever meet as they feel each other physically. I think that really is something. But talking about the songwriting camps, you actually showed me the concept. I didn't know it before I met you, and now it seems like to being a new phenomenon, not just in the world of Eurovision, but in general. Can you tell me something about it? As I think the people are watching this, they just don't really know what the songwriting camp really means. What is it?
Yeah. It can be in many different forms. My initial songwriting camps came from, I work in the Asian market, the K-pop and the J-pop market, and partners of ours in Japan wanted to do song camps, and that was very much about mixing Japanese or Korean writers with Swedish or English or German writers. And actually when you bring those sets to people all from different cultures, that really sparks something special, because if you have 3 Japanese writers sitting in the room together, it will be one song. If you have a Japanese, a German and a Czech, or a Japanese, a UK and a Polish, everyone brings their own culture, everyone brings their own. So in a sense, that was happening. I was doing those camps, or going to those camps, and then starting to run my own camps. In that way, and I could start to see this sort of cultural hybrids of songs being made, and that for me was interesting because again, travelling a lot, I'm from the UK, so the UK is an insular little place, but I'm kind of probably wouldn't represent myself as that. I travel a lot and I go out a lot, and I think I've learnt a lot from my travel from different cultures, and that's very similar in the songwriting camp. So I think where it crossed to Eurovision was actually I was at a Japanese camp we started in Holland, and then we moved across to Belgium. So we did 2 Japanese camps back to back, with some Dutch writers, some English writers, Swedish, Japanese, Koreans, but we moved into the one in Belgium. And on the last night you kind of go out have a party, and when we came back to the studio, it was Eurovision final 2015, and the really interesting thing as a British person was watching that with Swedes, watching it with Danes and Belgians and Japanese, and seeing, okay, so the English there, apart from me, all went into their rooms and carried on doing the studios. They weren't really interested in Eurovision. The Japanese were really interested. They have never seen it, but they were like, wow, what is this big show? And of course the Swedes are very into it. This is their bread and butter. They spend 6 months of the year doing Eurovision, or Mello before Eurovision. So we watched the show. My memory is of Polina and A Million Voices, and thinking, wow, what a song. And I was on the phone to I was messaging Pete Barringer, who you know as well, who we did the My Turn with, and he kind of said, well, why don't we do a Eurovision camp? And that was the spark of it, and we thought, okay, we'll look into this use the same concept we've been using. In the summer, we'll try and do a Eurovision camp to aim songs at Eurovision. At that point, we didn't really know what that meant. It just was, let's try and gather a load of people that kind of want to do this. So I went off to Cannes. A few weeks later, there's a music festival called Mid-Em. My first meeting was with a guy called Jacob Bjorklund. I explained, should we have I'm going to do a Eurovision camp. Have you got any writers? And he said, oh yeah, my writer wrote A Million Voices. And it was kind of that little spark of, that was the one that made us talk about we should do a Eurovision camp. So then he sent his writer to our camp. We gathered loads of other people, blah, blah, blah. And the first camp, actually, that writer, with another one of my writers, Ian Kerno, and Agneta from Norway, wrote Icebreaker. So it kind of... And there was another 10 rooms, eight or 9 rooms, say, that are writing songs as well, with a couple of other Norwegian artists, other artists from different countries. Some had no artists, they were just writing songs, hoping that we could pitch it later. And of course, not every one of those songs went to Eurovision. Actually, only one song went to Eurovision that year. Several of the other songs have been cut in various different places. But it kind of was like, this worked. But more so the bringing people together and sparking each other. And I think that's often the key we're looking for, the inspiration. So, my job, I feel, one of my jobs is becoming gather people, put them into different places, and not always people they know, because people it becomes safe. So it's almost like pushing boundaries by putting people who are different to each other. Of course, there's a formula. You need a producer. You need someone who can write lyrics. You need someone who can write melody and sing. So we tend to have groups of 3 as a maximum, 4 sometimes. Hopefully an artist in the room always helps. But there's that element of, if I can inspire by putting different people together, or we have a 15-minute sort of start session at the beginning where sometimes I'll do something stupid. I've got a wig that I sometimes put on in the mornings to surprise people. And it is something just as little as that. If you do something a little bit silly, that kind of makes people open up. Or it may be I wake up and I've got something a little bit more deep to share. And I remember often that's not planned. Often that's just suddenly something pops into your head and you share something, and then it doesn't mean you want people writing deep songs about that particular subject for the rest of the day.
When you do such things here, that's kind of it's iconic thing, kind of, that your first song was called Icebreaker. That I think that really tells the story.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. The interesting thing about that one was, there was a real journey with that song. It was really, it already started from the people that we met in Mid-Em and A Million Voices. So there's always a journey of a song, and that's one of my favourite, actually, journeys of the songs that I've been involved with. Stockholm also was a brilliant Eurovision. I think that was probably so well organised. Also, a small city really works because you don't have to travel 7 hours to get across the city to the Euro Club and things like that. But it was just a really good experience. But I can remember in the morning that was like day 3. And so we usually have 4 days, 3 or 4 days. And by day 3, you've got some great songs, but you almost get to that point where you're saying to people, let's go out of the box, let's break, let's try different things. Because if you're either going to get a winner song because you've done something different, or you're going to get, it doesn't really work. So this was the day I said, come out of the box, let's do something different, And I went in their room. I then sort of go around the rooms every couple of hours just to check they're in a good place. And usually you don't even have to do anything at all, because especially nowadays when most people know what they're doing. But sometimes it's like they're a bit lost. Sometimes with this one, I walked into the room and they were at this point and said, we've got this crazy idea, Greg. It's, you talked about changing things. We've got this idea to do the tempo change. So in the Icebreaker, there's a tempo change from verse to chorus. And actually, it was one of those where it's like, go for it. Let's try it. And interestingly, in Norway, it really worked, because in Norway, when it came to the final, they've heard the song more than once. So when you've heard the song more than once, I think you hear that song
you
first.
establish some kind of relationship with it.
Yeah, and so I think when gets to Eurovision itself, a lot of people were a bit like, oh, what? Almost like, what's happened there? It's 2 songs. And then after 2 or 3 listens, people started to like it. But it was almost... So remember, in Norway, people have heard it, and it absolutely won the votes massively in Norway. Exciting for me, because I was in Norway the year before, just coincidentally had a song that made it to the final. The moment I sat down and watched that song in the final, I thought, we're not going to win. You heard another couple of songs, I thought, we're not going to win this.
But the Norway is a bit unpredictable, and the quality not always matters in the televote, in my opinion.
It was a good song. Our song was a good song, but you could feel the audience reaction to 3 or 4 other songs, and you were just like, And this was a song first song Rayleigh ever did a while back, called Louder. But it kind of made you want... I went back the next year, and we won. And I think the tempo change was a big talking point with that. But when it got to Eurovision itself, of course, most people watch it once, the whole show once, see the song.
But there's always probably like many other details which are always we're looking at, like what we could do better, what we did wrong.
Yes,
it's always a bunch of several details, and as well, I think sometimes people forgetting that there's a huge competition as well each year, like 40 countries, and they're like this year, most of the countries just done an awesome job, and some songs I like better, some songs I don't like that much, but I still can appreciate the quality they just bring, and that brings me to the question: how do you feel that this evolution came up? It wasn't that usual that so many songs are in that high quality. Can you feel it as well?
Yeah, but I think I could feel it year on year. So going back to 2016 when we had Icebreaker, there was good quality songs, but not as many as there was in 2017, 2018. So I think genuinely, and I think I and a few others are really part of that in making much more interest from the songwriting community to come in and write songs for this purpose. I think the more of people that go to Eurovision, more songwriters that go to Eurovision, they're really inspired by it. At the moment we walked into Stockholm, I was there, my writer was a guy called Ian Curnow. Ian Curnow sold 50 million records. He'd written for Kylie, he'd written all sorts of things. He's in the sort of last bit of his career really. But he turned to me and said, I've never done anything as big as this, Greg. So that kind of made me
because the immediate impact of Eurovision is just huge, isn't it? It's
and
the biggest thing you can see, especially when you're just in the insides of it. It's like, wow.
And I think when you walk in and you think, I've never been involved in something so big, and there's that feeling of, I want to go and do it again. I think everyone who goes wants to go and do it. So every time we got to a national final, I took a writer. Then that writer was inspired, and then so there's an element of that spread in a sense. And even the Eurovision camps that we did early on, I can pinpoint a UK camp I did in about 2017-18.
Mm-hmm. That's the national selection which was happening, isn't it?
Yeah, which I know from that a camp came into another one came in Switzerland, and Switzerland has really improved since that. Another one has come from Latvia. Another one has come from Czech. So that Laurel Barker, for instance, had never done Eurovision ever. She came to that camp because I met her 2 months before. I thought, wow, what a writer! Let's just have her. She doesn't know anything about Eurovision. Actually, that's a fresh thing because she's not writing for Eurovision. She's writing great songs. Since then, she's inspired and she's come back and back and back again every year. So I don't think what my job really is to bring people and show them a bit of Eurovision, and then that's expanded. And I think it's not me alone, but I think there's me, there's others, there's several other people that are bringing more quality writers to Eurovision, and that therefore we're seeing I think each country take it more seriously. This year could have been a different one though, because in a way budgets I imagine have shrunk because of what's happening last year, so it's harder to do it. But I think the fact that we've got half of the artists are the same also allows people to go back and go, we need to do a better song than we had last year.
Yeah, which is better tricky, but I think that this year really helped most of the people actually improve, kind of. But you know that I'm a huge critic of kind of make a Eurovision song from Eurovision camp. I would like to prefer to, we had many discussions about it, to have just make great songs and then, maybe the great song can make it to Eurovision instead of following kind of a formula. Do you think there's a kind of a formula for Eurovision? As in my opinion, there is something which authors of music just doing for Eurovision, which differs it from the sound of normal sounds, from radio.
Yeah, I think, so the process, again, going back through our process, and this is exactly the same in Japan and Korea. We had a big hit in Korea, Japan actually, with a Korean act in 2008, with a song that we'd written, just a Western song, a Backstreet Boys type song. And we made the mistake of changing everything we did to try and aim it at Korea. And then we went back to it and went, the reason they liked our songs is because of what we did naturally. So, and I think that's very similar to what we've done with Eurovision camps. You go in, the starting one, it's kind of like, the first one's probably really good because we don't really know what we're doing, if that makes sense. Like I said with Laurel, comes in, doesn't really know how to write a Eurovision song. Then I think you have a period where you go, everyone tries to do the same thing and tries to do the formula, and that's actually the wrong point. And I think now we've come back out again, the last 2 or 3 years, of no, there isn't a formula, we just need to write great songs. I think the only thing I'd say that's different is 3 minutes, but to be honest, it used to be difficult to write a 3-minute song, but now people are writing for TikTok, and suddenly you're finding
the songs are like 2 minutes, 2 minutes 30.
So
that's the limit.
That's not as hard now. But the other one is, we do say, try and think visually when you write. Try and think. But myself as a writer, I originally was a writer. I always used to think visually as a lyricist anyway, in the sense that I still remember now one of our very, very first hits. We tried to write a song for Robbie Williams because one of my partners sounds like Robbie Williams, and we were writing lyrics about the video and blah, blah. Robbie Williams didn't do it, but it did get cut in 3 different countries. So it was as long as you've got a target, sometimes you don't hit the target, sometimes you hit somewhere else good. Not Robbie Williams, it would have been great to have Robbie Williams. But so we had 3 other artists in 3 different countries, smaller countries. But so there's an element, if anyone wants to do the formula, and I have exactly the same with the Asian market, where people come and say, can you tell us how to write songs for Japan? The first thing I say is, don't write songs for Japan. Write great songs. Because once you have that formula, you've lost that spark that we were trying to look at on the, there's a camp. What are we looking for? We're looking for a spark of different people. We're looking spark of environment. We're looking for a spark of creativity. The reason I'm a songwriter, publisher, creative person was when I listened to songs when I was growing up in the 80s, things sparked in me that I still feel now. I still listen to those songs now and I still feel that emotion. So therefore, that's kind of what we're looking for in Eurovision. I think actually every person that's won recently has been, the artist has connected with the song. So therefore the song and the artist connect with the audience. And of course you have to have a stage show and everything come together. Lots of things come together in that as well. But really, without that spark, there's no connection.
Yeah. So and you're saying about you're talking about the spark and the connection, which I was, during the period I was making Eurovision as well for my country, searching for songs, motivating artists, motivating songwriters, just don't do songs for Eurovision, just make the great song and send it to our platform, which is Eurovision. That was the goal. Yeah. And since the beginning, we didn't know, of course, how to do it. So we reached out, like we found you, other producers, before whatever, give a chance to whoever. And since then, I changed my mind a bit in the way, or I don't know how other countries really do it in detail. But what I was then curious is that you make songs from the songwriting camp or whenever else with demo artist, and then deliver this song to the countries, and they have to, if they choose the song, if they like it, they have to choose the artist for it. But wouldn't it be really better that you find the artist which fits the song, which will already love the song, have this spark inside, and then sell it kind of as a full package? As for me, as the head of delegation, that was always very visible that the artist is not that connected, because the artist wasn't a part of the creative process. And after all, and I think we did this mistake in 2017 as well, kind of, that you producers, publishers, like you, people like you, are just make even a step forward effort to find this kind of artist and then actually evolve the song itself.
Yeah, I think the best scenario is you find the artist very early. You write songs with the artist. Going back to Agneta, Icebreaker came from her. You know, it was about her emotions and things like that. So, and I think that connected. Difficult. That was a year where unfortunately she had health problems, so it didn't quite. There was a very lovely journey from song camp to all the way through to winning Norway, and then the last couple of months went wrong with her health, and it was sad for us to see her not be able to kind of complete a dream, but it kind of was a song from her heart. So I think that's really, really very important. I think Duncan, who won for Netherlands again, was a song that not everyone knows what it's about. I know what it's about. I'm not going to say what it's about because I don't know if it was shared. But there's definitely an emotional thing behind that song, which I think when you see it in his eyes, don't you? And I think you probably met Duncan. I think you were there that year. I think when you meet Duncan, and he is kind of he's got that extra bit of an artist where I think you've said that about Destiny before. I think about Polina. I know Gabrielle, who wrote for Polina, said problem is after he wrote for Polina, he could never write for anyone as good because she was that good. And I think these are the artists that step up into a Premier League in a sense. If we look at football terms, you know, you go in divisions, and can some jump up in a sense? But I do think a key is, can you have that artist early? You can't always get. I think each delegate, from my experience, each country tends to do things slightly different to each other. So obviously the Swedes are planning in June. Other countries are planning in February. So, as in February before. So there's an element of, I've spent probably the last 5 years talking to countries saying, have you got an artist? I think we had one the year after where you sent someone to a camp, you know, in a sense of, have you got people? And I remember when I did the UK BBC thing, the difficulty was trying to get a UK artist who was any good, who hadn't got a year ahead in their schedule planned. So there's an element of, maybe a key is you do it longer. You know, we should be, and I know there's another country I've been working with who, you know, they could have done songs this year, they have a group of songs this year with artists. It doesn't mean that those artists can't come back next year. I mean, no one knows who they were, in a sense, but there's still the process. Shouldn't just be about this year for next year. There's an element of, and I think you're seeing your Czech talent thing, there's an element of that development of artists is important as you go. You know, it's a long-term thing.
Yeah, I believe that the public broadcaster, who cares the platform, actually, he kind of gives jobs to you, to the artist, to the whole industry, kind of. It's not literally, but the thing is that I think we all should cultivate, on the broadcasters at the first place should, you know, cultivate the space for you, for all the environment for you to show up and just, you know, compete against each other, kind of, as I believe the music can be competition. It is kind of, anyway, because, you know, there are a lot of professions competing against each other. Who's the better producer? Who's the better lyricist? Who's the better, I don't know, composer? I think that is all goes up. But saying about this topic, I'm always like curious. Let's talk about Cleopatra, you know, the song from last year, which after all represented Azerbaijan, but it wasn't the Azerbaijan only the country which was thinking the song could represent their country. So how this is a part of the business, kind of, as it sounds a business thing to me. Yeah, but I think personally, I think there's room for both, and I think you're going to get people who are developing artists, which I think actually for me is the best way, because actually as a writer, if you develop an artist and you can do their single that goes to Eurovision, and you can work on their album, and you can continue that career, and actually Eurovision, say we get a Polish artist and Eurovision launches that Polish artist outside of Poland, for me that's
job done because you've taken Polish artist out and gone into Europe, and we've been working on that several times. Hasn't quite worked, but there's an element of that means you're getting a lot more than just a Eurovision, and Eurovision is one goal, but I think that that you can get more if you work with an artist long term and develop them, and a lot of the big British artists that have come because Ed Sheeran was in years of development. Big artists.
It's the classical story actually of most of the people, that you just can't become artists just like this. It's always a big story behind it, or mostly.
But then you have obviously summer delegations are picking an artist just like that in a sense, or maybe someone wins a competition like X Factor, like Britain's Got Talent or whatever, and then therefore they so you can't develop them because you're presented with these artists. So there's always going to be.
Can you really develop an artist if you just and it's not just the criticism about you, but maybe about the whole process. You just that's actually, I wouldn't say it's criticism. It's just a point of view that you have an artist and you have a song. We have a new universal song for any artist who wants it, kind of. How that some artists will pick this song, like Cleopatra, how this song or how this process can develop actually the artist.
Well, it can certainly launch the artist if you have a big song that launches the artist. I mean, you go back to history of the Beatles. The Beatles were a brilliant act themselves, but they also wrote many hits for other people and launched other careers because people used their songs. Actually, at the time, not everyone knew they were Lennon and McCartney songs necessarily. So as a songwriter, there's an element of, really, we work on the conditions that we're given. A lot of that, as you say, my first songwriting camp, I wanted as many artists as I can, but actually every year we did those. I didn't do one last year like we did because obviously we had COVID, we did some online sessions. But every year I asked, can you send an artist? Probably only 3 or 4 countries sent artists.
But
it was usually out.
Okay, but I'll tell you the counterpart to it. As a producer, I would not want to send an artist, as I don't own the artist. I own only the platform, and actually I always thought this is actually your work to bring the artist from the country if you want some, and find it. And then this natural relationship can become, and you then send the song to Eurovision for the exact country. That's how I feel that the process should be, naturally. Yeah. Then the country send me your artist, because then I'll cancel, because then I cancel the chance to other artists to take part, and I don't want to do it if I want to develop the whole market. So I mean, when I'm saying people send so we're obviously looking for artists, but it is hard to find, and I think again they go through. But it's not that hard, isn't it, nowadays with the Spotify and all the list, which is very easy to really find songs for a certain country. It always depends on the country and things. And again, if I go back to Switzerland, I know 3 or 4 years ago Switzerland couldn't get any artists to do Eurovision. Obviously, because the market wasn't that developed, for the Eurovision as well. No, but now so now it's progressed and they're doing better. A lot more people want to do seeing it as a vehicle. So there's an element. Yes, partly our job. I mean, I could tell you the story of Kassia Moś. We found. I found Kassia Moś. So she, strangely, I was at a conference. I was talking about K-pop in Liverpool, my favourite city because it's my team. And, I love it too, yeah. Any chance to get to Liverpool and someone says come and do a conference, I'm there, Okay, so I went to Liverpool. Was on a kind of not talk, but it was more like a panel. People were asking questions and things. And then afterwards we had a round table meeting. About 10 different people come and sat with me, and one of the people was Polish, and she said, "Can I send some people to your Asian camps? For K-pop?" And I first of all was a bit like, "Well, I haven't got any planned yet. Didn't know anything about this person." I kind of said, well, let's talk a bit, but maybe send me some artists in the next week. Kind of thought it was just someone a bit crazy, so you just don't know, because there was a lot of people asking questions. And went home a couple of days later, got this list of artists from Poland, and a great email from
was kind of like Polish Music Export. I was like, oh, okay, so this feels real. So, and there was a really good, I looked through the artists, there's probably 7 or 8, and it was like, and coincidentally, I had a Eurovision camp 2 or 3 weeks later, my second one, I think it was. So I said to the, went back and said, 3 or 4, can I, who's available? I'd quite like Kassia, and I'd quite like one of the others, a guy called Patrick Kuma. And then next thing we know, we're in Holland doing a camp, and Kassia and Patrick have come. We wrote 2 songs with Kassia, 2 songs with Patrick. A couple of those, the songs are okay, but Kassia kind of cottoned on to, okay, we like the idea, and so we then brought her back to England. Actually, we were having a UK camp at the time, and we put her downstairs and wrote songs for Poland at the same time. And as she came upstairs, the UK A&R, wasn't me at that time, before me, was kind of like, who are you? Who's Kassia? Are you English? So
Well, like speaking, yeah, classic.
And it was, and then I showed him some singing, and he was like, wow, has she got any connections to England? It's like, unfortunately not. I don't know, but anyway, Flashlight was written downstairs.
Yeah, it was a great song.
So downstairs on that sort of camp, but it was a series of events, in a sense, that happened to do that. Did I go and find out? I had put myself in places to, put myself in places for things to happen. A lot of our situations have been that. It's been through travelling, and you meet people and the right people. But it is hard to dig out, for someone from England, to know the best artists in Czech, for instance, to know.
Yeah, for sure. But what I found out that it's not that hard actually. It's not that hard to find some contacts. It's like 5 years ago maybe it was different than it is now, but still, the question is, and the Cleopatra for me, the song is a great example for many things we will talk anyway. Is that I know it was offered to many other countries, and then it doesn't really matter who's going to sing it, kind of. And I'm actually not sure if I don't want to put it is a wrong thing, because I think it must be said as well that this is a great business too.
For a songwriter or a publisher, you want your song to do well. The truth is, about Cleopatra, it was written in November on a camp which wasn't a Eurovision camp. It just was a spot, really amazing. It was a camp in Spain we do. It was a really inspiring place. 3 people who'd never met, bang, Cleopatra comes. Lots of sort of making it 3 minutes and putting extra hooks and various things like that. And then it was offered, it only ever got pitched to 4 people, from memory, 4 countries, because the timing of November is later than most. In a sense, Sweden's already done, Norway's already done.
Yeah, Czech as well.
So it was very, very late to the mix, and it never got. As soon as we knew someone wanted it, we then always honour the fact you want it, and then we have the discussions. We try it. Does it work? And actually, it was only one other artist that tried it, and it didn't work for them. In a sense, I don't think they were very sure about it. In a sense. Personally, I think it ended up in the right place, because I think from what we saw, the right artist got it, in a sense. We had offered it to someone else after, so that was when we offered it to 3 and 4, I think. But as soon as the first person came back, we were like, no, this feels right, let's go negotiate, and is this the right person? That's kind of the same as song pitching throughout. It's no different to Eurovision at all. Britney Spears, Baby One More Time, or Can't Get You Out of My Head by Kylie. They've all been pitched to various places, and eventually they found the right home.
Yeah, I think there are many concepts how to put it, and I quite actually like that there's kind of a competition like this as well. But with the Cleopatra, there's something really strange happened, as you're not the part of the team of Mata Hari, aren't you?
No.
And tell me what's your feelings about it. As I said in my review of the song, it's the Cleopatra 2.0. It's like the same song with a different name on it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about doing something all year for Azerbaijan, but I think it never kind of came off to be the right moment. And I think they're one of the countries that goes very late, starts talking in about January. So I've only watched it 1.5 times, to be honest. I try not to watch lots of different songs for Eurovision deliberately, because I like to go as a fan. I like to go as a, what am I going to hear? Obviously, I do hear several songs along the way because you have to. But I've heard this one and I kind of went, I don't want to listen to it again. Because it kind of, whatever the feeling is, it isn't a nice feeling in a sense, because I can see the idea of what the people have done, but I don't really want to sort of embrace that. I'm a kind of a much more positive person, thinking, okay, that's fine, let them get on with that, and actually put all our energy into the entry that we've got this year. I actually really think one thing I did learn and was the year we were with you, and the year we also had Poland. That was the hardest year we've ever had, because in being there, because you're aligned to two different places, and actually the strangest probably night of my life was sitting with you guys in the semi-final and Poland sitting behind us and us having both songs, and of course Czech and Martina went out and Poland went through, and we just had this strangest emotion of I don't know how to feel, because we feel actually our journey had been more personal with Martina, if that makes, because she'd been over to us to record. Me personally, I'd spent more time with Martina. We'd spent time with you in the hotel, so that is gutting in one way, but yet we've got this nice relief that we did. So there's an element of, in a way, I look at it now and I know we've got a good entry now. I'm glad we haven't got something else to focus on as well, because I think there's no way we could have done what we've done with the Malta entry if we were producing Azerbaijan as well. In honesty, I couldn't, because it's a lot of work. But yeah, I can see why Azerbaijan have done that, because there's an element of Cleopatra was good, I think, but it was one of those, or it was a love it or hate it song.
Maybe, yeah. For me, was it more? For me, actually, if I didn't know the history, for me was like really the song made super late for Eurovision, and even you said it's not. But for me, it was like this is like a super construct for me, not in a bad way, but that's the formula, kind of following.
Not originally. It was written on this day, and when I went in, I started to say this feels like a Euro, So let's make it sure let's make sure it's 3 minutes, blah blah blah, and then we sort of tailored it, but it wasn't on a Eurovision camp, and it wasn't sit down and write a song for Eurovision. I don't know what I would have given some sort of brief in the morning, but I don't think it would have led to Cleopatra. I don't think I said anything about Cleopatra or this or that. I think it was probably a similar thing, be a bit out of the box today. Tend to find a lot of the really good ones do come on day 3 or 4, where people are either they've done what they've come to plan to do, and then the plans go out the window, and you're either tired. I think sometimes great songs come from, you don't know where they come from, if that makes sense.
Why is that? I think that with the ideas as well, it doesn't matter what kind of industry you're talking about, but what do you think that's, how is that happening? Why is that happening?
It's like the moment you focus and try, it almost makes it difficult. And I think this comes down to the formula. We know how to do it, so we do it this way, but we miss that inspiration moment. I don't know why, but if we talk about yesterday, the Paul McCartney song, he would talk about he woke up, he had a dream about it, and he woke up singing it, and he thinks it came from his mum, doesn't he, or something, or was that, no, maybe that's Let It Be. But there's I don't know. A lot of the time, one of Pete, one of my partners and who writes songs, he often says, I've just been out for a dog walk, and has to run back to the studio because he's got an idea. Yeah,
just out of a sudden. Yeah, I kind of think that this is with the songwriting camps as well. The thing is that you're over to in songs that finally the inspiration come when you think you're done. Like when you're just free your mind a bit.
I think mostly it's almost like you haven't got anything, and I think that's where the camps work. It might be there's 3 people in a room, and you're at the bottom. You haven't got any creative energy, but someone comes in and says, "Did you see that headline today?" And then that sparks you, and then that sparks them, and then that sparks, and there's an element of that's creation in a sense. I think very hard to sit in a room and write on your own all the time. Some people can do it, but I think they take a lot longer. I think that's where we're searching for on the songwriting camps, or what I'm trying to do on not just camps, on writing sessions, is just that little bit of, can we find that inspiration moment where we spark something? How we do that, I don't know. As I said about the wig earlier, sometimes that just by loosening people up is good. Sometimes by sharing a deep story is good. Sometimes I play a different piece of music and that inspires people, not because they want to then write that, but they trigger something that, okay, that makes me think this. So,
yeah, what a mystery. I love it.
And I think I'm even just that small bit about music that sticks in your memory. So my grandmother passed away now, but I remember one of the best memories I had with her in the last year or two was I took my daughters, I've got 11-year-old twins, they're probably about 5 then, and she had dementia. So she was in a home, and she just used to sit and look at us, and we didn't know what to do, but it was Christmas. And we just had a Christmas carol concert. So I said to the girls, can you sing Silent Night? They sang Silent Night. And the moment they sang, she sat up in her chair and she started to sing. And then when they finished, she did a last verse. And we were like, oh, I've never heard that verse before. And then the moment she's finished, she almost went back to not being connected again.
It's like some kind of switch is happening.
I personally think that is this deep connection thing with music and various words, and I think that's what we're looking for. We don't necessarily know where it comes from, but certainly when I listen to the music from the 80s, it triggers memories. And I used to watch The Incredible Hulk and there's this theme tune which I heard 20 years later, and it made me cry because it was a theme tune every time he left the village and had to sort of, and it was like, why am I crying about this? And it was so there's all these things, and I think if we can find that in music, I don't think you can formulate that at all. I think all we can do, or I can do, is put people together, put them in good situations and try, in a sense, and then sometimes you do and sometimes you don't.
What's the story of the Germacast, as this sounds like an interesting story as well with the Malta and Destiny?
I'm less involved in the very, very beginning of Germacast, in a sense that did come from some sessions in Sweden originally. I kind of came in later and sort of was given the song. So I often work in teams, in a sense of, as you know, with the TV stuff, there's masses of creative teams all working together. So I work with a guy called Kevin Lee from Weeby Music, and the last 2 or 3 years, really, we've been working together as, one of us might be the more of the A&R, one of us might be more of the song picture, and he kind of started that song, as in was the A&R, gave the idea. I think he gave the idea of the title to the writers. They then wrote the song. It came to me a couple of months later, I think, and hear this song, and I was, I think I said, this is really good. That was loved it, but there was a hook missing. So I can't remember exactly, but it was something.
Yeah, but at the instant thing, you just think like, okay, this goes somewhere.
Yeah, and you're starting to realise, again, after 6 years of doing this, there's lots of good songs, lots of really good songs, but there's other songs which are just another level up, in a sense. And I think I would put Me Casse in that. The reason people liked Cleopatra so much, if we sent it to 4 people and 3 people liked it, wanted it, that's not bad. They're the next ones up, in a sense. I think My Turn, okay, we didn't do very amazingly well with My Turn, but again, another song that wasn't written for Eurovision, and it came in the day that I was pitching at you, and it was, I don't know if you remember, I sent it to you and it was too long.
Yeah, so I was immediately sent like, don't send it to somebody else or something like this.
Yes, so there's an element of, you're listening to many, many songs. I've done the other side for the BBC, 700 songs.
You just hear like, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 songs. It's like really too much.
Yeah, and there's lots of good ones.
Yeah.
But some don't take you, it's that element of, I had a lot of really strong songs from Sweden, for instance, and you have this thing of, it doesn't quite deliver in the chorus. I'm excited. Oh no, I'm not excited. And then one just jumps above the rest. And I think that's kind of what tells us the difference. And Me Casse, so in a sense, I came into that later to the table, and then again, it's been pitched, and I think it's taken someone in Destiny's team as well. Some Howard has got some. I don't know if you probably know Howard from Destiny's manager. He's got great vision to imagine that could be a Destiny song, in a sense, because everyone's expecting gospel ballad, in a sense. And I think that's a little bit of difference between Azerbaijan and Malta this year. Is Azerbaijan went with the same formula, and having said that, the public won't know, will they? The public don't know. The general public don't know Cleopatra, so it's only the Eurovision community that really know Cleopatra, because Cleopatra never got its stage. So, but for us, we know that Azerbaijan kind of went with similar formula, whereas Malta kind of went, okay, we could stretch Destiny to this point, and actually Destiny is ready for that song. In a sense, we know how good an artist Destiny is. She's only 18,
which is crazy.
But 2 years ago, she probably wasn't in the right place to sing that, or a year ago she wasn't in the right place. It's almost like, whereas now it's kind of like feels like that's her song. She can really connect with it, make it believable.
Yeah. How was her reaction when she firstly heard it?
I mean, I don't know because I wasn't the other side, but I assume she liked it. So,
yeah, and then they send you probably the message like, okay, like let's do this together.
It goes, and it goes through as always with most of these types where it's not a song that's written by the artist. There's a stage where it's in the final 5 or 6, or in a sense, and you know that, and then we're starting to develop the song more, and there was a point where we made it from. I mean, if we do really well, I'll get someone to come back and tell the exact story of it, in a sense, but I shouldn't reveal absolutely everything about it because we're still in the running. But the song was strong, and it was taken, and then there's a point where it was made more Destiny, and Destiny really owned it, and I think that's. And again, interesting thing is for a month we're in production going, oh, this is hard. This is at the end of it. You're how many mixes and all this sort of business. You get tired. You don't realise how good it was, and you almost lose that spark of what you had when you first heard it. And then now you're seeing the reactions. You're thinking, yeah, no, it is good, isn't it? But the key is Destiny's the right artist. She's not. That song in particular wouldn't.
Yeah, and I think that's like the greatest mystery of all times is how you connect the song with somebody, and with just one person, it just click like it's a different song. It's like it just develops to something else kind of. I remember hearing The Friend of a Friend from the first time. That's the song we had as Czech Republic in 2019. It actually was made in songwriting camp, which you inspired, and the one in Czech. It wasn't made for Eurovision at all, but it was made by the artist who sang it. So I remember hearing for the first time, for like first 30 seconds, I already knew like I needed to go to the contest or to the national selection itself. It was a hard way then to get it in because Albert didn't want to go to Eurovision, But the thing is that, as you say, that sometimes it just clicks somehow, and you just know you have a hit, which maybe wouldn't be a hit with somebody else. Yeah,
and I think sometimes you don't know that until you've got it. It's one of those strange things where it's like, I think this is good, I think this is good, and then suddenly you realise, oh, no, this is really an extra level. And I think the friend of a friend is one of those where it's just, again, he's not doing what you naturally expect it. We've all got this Eurovision mindset almost, where this is what, and actually I'm part of something trying to break that, where it's actually, no, we just want great songs and great artists at Eurovision. When I did the BBC for a year, I had the conversation with people I'd meet. Every person I met said, oh, that's good you're doing Eurovision. Oh, it's a bit cheesy, isn't it? And cheesy, being a bit. And I'd then say to them, when did you watch it last? And they say, oh, I haven't seen it for 15 years. And literally, I'd have this conversation.
I had this conversation just recently, and the question was, Why do you think that the Eurovision has still the branding as a freak show? And I was like, well, it doesn't really have this branding ever. It just Czech said it after 2007 when the worst band was sent there and we failed, and that was just sad. But it still keeps this mentality in mind of people who didn't really see it for many, many years. This is crazy. But it's still a great sign that it develops as well in the UK somehow. What do you say about the system they're using right now with the BMG?
So I think that the system they're using now is the right one for the UK. I think each country has to do it differently, and it is dependent on what you've done before and what result you've got. The national final system for me was, I think when you do a national final and when you do select a song for Eurovision, there's an element of you're leaving it very much to chance if it's the right song. UK were definitely picking the emotional singer songs, so because they get the feeling from the TV, but also you mustn't forget that the UK is separate from Europe a little bit. It's not in my eyes, but it, in the sense, the things that the UK likes and the things that they think Europe likes. So are we sending songs that we think Europe will like, or are we just sending good songs?
It's the same thing as you said with the K-pop, that you can do actually your own pop and just deliver it instead of meet the expectation in advance,
Yeah, so I think with James, actually, that's a better way. It is a real writer, a real singer-songwriter. He is writing for himself. I don't know the exact method of how they're selecting the song. I'm not involved at all now. But in a sense, it was Hugh Goldsmith, who was before me, and I were both said to the BBC, you must get a label involved. I think the year I did it, again, I had two agendas. You're right. You're trying to make a TV show and you're trying to get a Eurovision song. And actually, there's no. If we think Christa Borkman sits down and picks 28, or Karin picks 28 songs for Mello that are the best chance of winning Eurovision, it's not true. Actually, people are picking songs for a TV show, and then there is obviously some great Eurovision potential winner songs in there.
Yeah,
as well.
I think actually it's a combination that you're picking up the things you think they're winning, especially, and then you're of course bringing up the combination for the TV show as it's just a family program as well. It's always can backfire. I'm not a huge fan of this, especially when you're just called the thing the national selection, and it's not that huge and traditional as Mello as we can really see that in Melody Festival, and the people are voting in the semifinals for various kind of quality songs. Less quality, better quality, different kind of style, whatever. Like, it's really diverse, and always the quality wins. Always, it doesn't. Never the joke act. If you just compare it to Norway, when they have the very similar system, they have great songs in the national selection, and then not really the best wins most likely. And I don't really want to compare it with the icebreaker, but as well this year the situation was like crazy. So do you think it's really would be better as well for the countries to pick just the better songs for it? As I think this year Eurovision is full of diversity, but it's more likely full of quality as well. It will be really hard to find a winner. And it makes the drama or all the emotional stuff around the Eurovision already like a big marketing thing. So maybe the concept of how we producers think how to build up a national selection of the songs with different quality, it's not the right. Maybe the quality first is the system.
Yeah, and I think because everyone does it differently, you get this diversity, and sometimes you're going to get a weak one or someone that wins, and it's like, well, I think sometimes the ones that win, we don't understand why they've won. They're often like in Norway. From outside, maybe we don't understand it, but inside Norway, he's a very big star.
Oh, yeah, I know that. Yeah.
So but you know that, and I know that kind of we're more in the Eurovision community. So other people might watch it and go, when they first watch it on Eurovision night, I think, what's Norway sending? But there's I think there's no real perfect way of that. I think, going back to the UK, I think it really matters for the UK to get on the left side of the board, to get fit top 10 if they can, because then the UK people, one of the hardest things I had was getting the music industry interested in writing songs for Eurovision, or writing song. So that's a tough thing. If you can get the music industry interested, then it will start to change. And I think we've seen that in Switzerland. We've seen that in
we see that a lot in Czech Republic. A lot
of places. So people are starting to see it. In the UK, we need to get on the left-hand side of the board. And I think the key for that is managing which song gets picked. So there's an element of, okay, this is the best way for now. I'd love, in the long run, like Stig is doing for Norway and Mello, I'd love it to be that we have some sort of national show where, because to be honest, X Factor and everything's all old hat now. But if we found
there are karaoke shows anyways.
Yeah, but if we did find artists and things that went to Eurovision, that could be a perfect way to do it. But we don't. We kind of need to do much better in it first, because otherwise you're going to attract the wrong artists. Personally, but I think each country has it differently, and it'll be, the Netherlands won. What happened the year after? Did they change their formula? I think. What do you do after you win? Do you care? There's an element of do we do it again? Do we want to win again? Because sometimes it's a lot of money to win twice.
Yeah, but you can't say it out loud. I think, especially because of the artist always wants to win. No. I think.
No, I know, but I've certainly heard it. Don't go and win. Go and become second.
Of course, that was the exactly the thing we did have here in Czech Republic, as there was a running joke inside like. Okay, try to get to the finals, but don't try to win it, as we can't afford it kind of jokes. But at the end of the day, everyone wants to win, even the ones who are joking, especially when they feel it's possible.
Yeah, imagine winning and taking it to your own country and being the people that did. I think that would be, for me, that would be massive to bring it back to the UK, in a sense.
Yeah, I always think how is it possible that the UK just can't do it somehow, as you just go to the underground and there are like 5 people playing guitars and they're just great. Like it's not probably hard to find the people, but maybe just to spark or light the spark in them, about the project and how big actually it is and how big it gets.
Yeah.
But I think it's not the work for you, but it's more like the work for the BBC.
No. It almost needs to grow again naturally, in a sense, by year, and I think like it has somewhere else. Like you can go and show, this has been more successful. Look at it. Yeah. And I think certain countries have done that. So that's really why the UK needs to come, higher up on the board, and so people can see the impact it can have. And I think actually, I would say the last couple of years the songs have got gradually better, in a sense, or so it's slow progress. Problem is, going back to the football analogies, if Arsenal's your team, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they buy lots of great players over the summer, doesn't mean that Chelsea, Man City, blah, 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 are all, so you can improve, and I think the UK has improved, but other countries have improved more, maybe. So there's an element where and I certainly think from 2016 to now, the competition is much stronger.
Yeah. Do you think you can win the competition this year?
I'd love to win. Can we win? I think it would be silly to go in not thinking you could win. I don't ever expect it now, because I've won. So I've been at national finals expecting to win and then lost. And it's the worst feeling in the world, having the favourite and coming out and going, huh? So I kind of go in and go, actually this one, enjoying being higher up, that's going, that's a bonus for us in a sense. I believe in destiny. I believe she's one of 5 or 6 artists that probably could go into the next level. So I think that's a key for us. And the song is great, the reaction is great. But as well as I know, the staging now becomes really important. It can make or break what happens. But yeah, I'd say we've got a good chance.
Yeah, all right. I'll wish you best of luck for whatever great result, especially if you develop the artist to the next level, which I think that it's even more important than the winning itself. Thank you, Greig, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, that was Greig Watts. What do you think about his answers? What do you think about my questions? What do you think about the songwriting camps? What do you think about the Eurovision sounds? What do you think about the Cleopatra story? Or what do you think about the Norway 2016 story? The story of Malta, of course. I'm really curious, so please write me in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like the video and please share it among your friends and in the community, as those information you normally won't get anywhere else. So I would recommend to ring the notification bell as well. And I see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.